Welcome to the Chart Doctor workshop, how to test the usefulness of any data visualization. My name is Evelyn and I have created a decoding strategy canvas, first for my own personal use. And I want to share this tool today with you because I think it's pretty useful maybe. So have you asked yourself, do my users understand my data visualization? Well, when I started out with data visualization, I asked this myself and I found out often much later that users don't understand my data visualization, my charts, my dashboards, and they have difficulties to read, or it takes a long time for them to read, or they are not clear about the message I wanted to tell them. So I wanted to get better at data visualization and at designing data visualizations. And so I paid a lot of attention to how people decode charts, and I watched them. I asked them to speak out loud when they read charts, and I detected understanding is nothing that just the magic, the data you have in a chart, right? Maybe you agree with me here. And actually, it's a structured decoding process almost nobody's talking about. The foundation of data design is an in-depth understanding of the human process of decoding data visualizations. And it is something that we all do mostly subconsciously, but it is actually a repeatable step-by-step process. And if you understand this process well, you can first learn to read charts correctly and not forget important steps. So this is something not only for newbies, but also for data pros. So when I started, I was often guilty of trying to read a chart, but I skipped the headline. I didn't look at the legend and the axis, and I dived right into this interesting pattern or point or spike that I saw, and I completely missed the message of the chart because I didn't read it correctly. And this is what I often witness also with other people, with my users. And if you learn the 6 steps you need to decode a chart correctly, then you can also improve your data literacy. Also, with the decoding strategy, you can assess the quality of any chart, and you can also, when you want to build a chart or you're in the process of building maybe a data visualization for data products or for data journalism, whatever, for a big important presentation that you have, you can predict if your chart will be useful or understandable. And you can predict this with user tests or without. The without version is the quick hack that we will be doing today. So it's a workshop, and later I ask you to decode a chart in a group as a group work along with the decoding strategy, right? But you can also use the decoding strategy as a structure or blueprint when you make user tests. This is also very helpful. And with the results of those tests, you can pinpoint the exact issues of the chart. And if it's your own chart, you can design it better. That's very easy then. Or if it's someone else's chart and you are the reader, you can provide very good and qualified feedback for them. So without further ado, let's jump directly in. So I try to share my screen. Yeah, okay. And yeah, I'm using Mural today for presentation. I hope this works because I want to draw. This is great with Mural. So here is my decoding strategy canvas. And this is something that you can fill out alongside the chart. It has 6 steps. Let's go into the first step. It's thinking fast. What jumps into your eyes at the first glance? And yeah, this is really important that you ask yourself this, because this is what almost everyone does when looking at a chart. You cannot unsee it. Before decoding the chart, you have already read a message, and it's important that this message align with your intended message, right? The second is crack the translation key. This is where the work begins, the mental load, the detective work of the users that is always often subconsciously, but nevertheless it's work, and you have to make sure that all the elements help the user to crack translation key. So first you need to read the headline. Yeah, actually. Be sure about the topic, find out hints about the topic, make sure what kind of chart type you're dealing with, look at the axis, the legends, and at the end, the visual marks. And this is where we jump already to step 3, because yeah, step 2 and step 3 are somehow a little bit intermingled. They are often not really linear, because you jump between them. So often you start with what's the visual mark, what's this dot, what's this bar? Okay, it's maybe a day or person, and then you're already in step 3, identify data. What objects are represented by the visual marks? What properties do they have? What kind of proportions and relations and frequencies and time can I see here? Okay, then if you have managed this, you have technically decoded the chart. So you see, it's already a lot of work that you have to do. And the next thing people usually do is they connect the data to the real world, to their own knowledge that they have, and they try to validate the data and also interpret. So this is the context that we need to add in most of the charts to make the message and the story clear. And the 5th step, and it's the 5th step, not the first one, it's actually read the message. Now, after you have decoded everything, added your own knowledge, you can try to read the message. What's the message for you personally? What might be the message for your users? And also, what is the author's intended message? Also, are there any actionable insights that can be derived from the message? And is there a story? And the 6th step is also really important, and it comes typically after you read the message. It's critical thinking about data quality. How was this measured? How was this calculated? What have been the motives of the author? Are we dealing with probabilities? Are there confidence intervals, or are they hidden? Are there other hidden things that are not shown in the visualization? All right, so this is just know the see this. It's over here. So this is my own sleep data for the last 30 days, and it's tracked with this fitness tracker that I have here. And as you can imagine, I'm a data designer. I love data. I loved also data about myself. And this fitness tracker is called Whoop. And I bought this because it has a very deep data collection, shows a lot of data. So it's interesting. And I just found out a couple of days ago about this the graph. I didn't know that it exists. And I thought it's pretty interesting. So I selected this for today for you. So let's go through step by step. First step is thinking fast. I don't know how you, what you see if you just look like 3 seconds on this graph. I see, so let me see if I can draw. I see here sleep stages. So immediately I said, wow, that's my own sleep data, and I can see the sleep stages here. And these are 3 layers here. And these are obviously the sleep stages. All right. So that worked pretty well for me. And then the next step is it's not okay. Correct translation key. So what do we have here? We have not really a headline. So I'm a little bit lost, but I know already it's my sleep data sleep stages. And what kind of chart type is this? This must be a stacked area chart, a stacked bar chart, because it looks like bars in a timeline. Okay. What's the y-axis about? So the y-axis is about there's nothing here to that no label, but I guess it looks like hours based on the numbers. So I have to derive that these are hours, and I also have to derive that this might be the length of my sleeps. Just guesswork, right? And what's the y-axis? So I'm guessing this must be days, or in the context of sleep, this must be nights. And also I see on top that I selected 1 month. So I assume that these are the last 30 days of my sleep data. Okay, but what about the legend? Yeah, we have legend over here. And this is helpful because here I have the 3 sleep stages. I heard already about the sleep stages, light sleep, REM sleep, and deep sleep with a color code. So this is easy. But then what's the visual mark? So one visual mark is a bar. For example, this one here. Yeah. And one bar represents what? One bar represents one sleep, right? One night's sleep. And this is, I have to decode to understand that then those stacks represent the amount of time I spent in these 3 sleep stages. Okay, so what can we compare here? What kind of relations can we see? So we cannot compare my sleep to the sleep of someone else or some benchmarking, but I can compare the sleep length of every night to the night before and after. I can see that last week I had some very nice long sleeps, and I can also remember I had them. And this week they were a little bit shorter, but still quite okay. Also, I see that I have these REM phases, deep sleep phases. Yeah, this is, I can compare the deep sleep phases over time, the REM, deduct technically from this chart. Okay, step 4, connect to the real world. So I immediately start validating the chart with my own memory of my last sleeps, and I see, okay, it matches with my memory, so check, should be valid data. Also, I remember what I read about the bootstrap, that what it actually measures. It measures the heart rate, my temperature and movement, and it derives from the heart rate, the heart variability rate. This is an important measurement for health and for recovery. Also the respiratory rate, and based on all these metrics, WHOOP somehow calculates the sleep stages, right? But it's not open source, and I'm not sure what kind of algorithm they use and how reliable it is. I just know that WHOOP is one of the best. They say one of the best fitness trackers detecting sleep stages. This is why I'm interested in WHOOP, but I don't know if I can really rely on this data if I spend really like here 2 hours, 3 hours in REM, or if it's just WHOOP doing something wrong, right? Because I cannot control it. Also, I read about the sleep stages that they occur in cycles, but this is not visible here. Yeah, you see that the amount of time in the sleep stages are just aggregated and not. I don't see the cycles. That's a little bit sad. So, most important point: read the message. Really from this chart. So first there was the wow effect. For the first time I can see my data, but then what's the message? I just would say I sleep with sleep stages, right? I cannot really say that I have great sleep or poor sleep. I cannot benchmark. I don't know what's normal, if this is okay, if this is really astonishing. It really leaves me a little bit helpless with the message. And when I think, why did the authors of this app put this kind of chart in here? Maybe they think that I know more about sleep stages, and they want to give me the chance to improve my sleep. But this is really very abstract, and it just doesn't work for me right now. And the sixth step was critical thinking. So I already mentioned the one point: I have no control, I have no knowledge how they deduct or derive or compute the sleep stages. I don't know, do they use artificial intelligence? Is this a simple algorithm? How simple, basic is this? How many errors do we have? What's the error margin here? Yeah, between those values. How sure is WHOOP to decode this correctly? And also, I'd really like to see the data from other WHOOPers. And also, I know that sometimes WHOOP collects sleep when I already know that I was awake. So maybe I know already that's not really 100% true. So this is a short walkthrough how you can work with the decoding strategy and what are the results for this chart. So I already pointed out it's maybe step 3. Yeah, this is a little bit tricky to figure out what's the visual mark, what's the object here. That's its one night sleep. But I don't think this is a huge thing, because most of the people will figure it out, but it takes more time, and the authors maybe should consider to add some annotations here to help people read the chart. And the more problematic issue that I see here is actually the message that you are left alone for interpretation. There are no hints, no benchmarkings, if your sleep data is good or bad, if your variation is okay, and everything like this. So I think this is the thing that the authors could improve here, to add a message, add a headline, add benchmarks, something like this. Okay, now the first part is over, and the next part will be more interactive, and it's your turn. And we will form groups of around 5 people, and we use the Zoom breakout rooms, and you will be moved there automatically and work with the decoding strategy canvas on your own chart for about 20 minutes. So you can see here that I prepared some other charts, and it's one by The Guardian about the Electoral College and the states. It's one about COVID-19 symptoms in the US. And there's also a nice one about coffee and the quality assessment of coffee beans. So you will be moved to automatically to one group, and please pay attention because this these yellow labels here are the group names. And please go into this mural. I will put the link in the chat, and you should have free access as guest, and then just move to the right space to your group's space here, and then you can start drawing, and you can start drawing, and you can start writing on the decoding strategy canvas if you want, but you can also just discuss it and verbally as you like. Okay. Participants we have. Let's see this right now. Here's the chat. So I think I put the mural link again. No. In the chat. So now work. Just give me a minute. So this is the mural link in the chat. And I just cannot see how many participants we have. Can you please tell me this?
I can read 37 participants in total.
37, okay. So we need about 8 rooms. So that I will prepare those rooms. Okay. So we have 8 rooms now. Do you have any? Okay, no questions. So you will be moved to the breakout rooms, and you can move anytime you want back to the main room. And also if you are finished, or and if you have questions, then you can write them in the chat. All right, then let's start the sessions. No, I'm not sure because there's only so little people in there.
If someone shared in the chat that they can't see the link, the mural link. Okay, now I think they got it.
I've just reshared it. Test if that works.
I put it. Okay. So now that works. Okay, so have fun and see you in 20 minutes. Okay, so hopefully you're all back in the main room and you can hear me again and see my screen. So I hope you had a little bit fun, and I'm not sure who was really participating and working on the charts, but I am really curious if you wanted to share some insights you had, or also some issues and problems you had, and if you found something interesting out about the charts, the good things in the chart and also the bad things. So who wants to speak and present something the group has been working on, even if just a little tiny insight we will all want to know. So please unmute yourself and just start speaking.
I probably can do a quick wrap up.
Okay, thank you, Elena. Go.
All right, so we looked at Google charts about COVID-19 symptom search trends. And the main one presented in the chart is search related to fever. What we didn't like about it is that the scale bar isn't kind of consistent. It shows on the one hand 2 times search, and on the other hand is 1.1/2. So it's like half of the search. So yeah, we couldn't actually understand if it's the same direction from the zero, the numbers of pluses and minuses, let's say. The other thing that kind of was a bit confusing to connection to the real world and reading the message of this chart is there are also given some other searches which are not related to COVID-19 symptoms, which is a bit confusing, like hair loss. So hair loss, we know that hair loss is a COVID-19 symptom, but it is still presented in a chart, while the main title of the topic is COVID-19 symptoms. So it's kind of confusing why this kind of data is given here when it's not related to the main topic. I think it's kind of confusing. And also, probably it would be interesting to see the second chart showing, or map showing, confirmed cases of COVID-19. So to see, okay, there are people Googling symptoms, but people do this all the time. And if it is a real world scenario behind this Google thing. So yeah. I don't know, maybe some of my teammates want to add something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, please add something. Okay.
I think Elena said it clearly. I mean, there's nothing much to.
Okay, thank you. So this is really interesting because when I prepared the chart, I didn't see that the legend is actually inconsistent. This is a good catch you had here. And so I, again, fell for it. I was too fast and didn't inspect this carefully again. So you see, everyone is doing this. And actually, if you open the link here, you can look at the interactive version. This is even nicer, but the points are all correct that you had, that it's a little bit confusing that you have all those different symptoms, but maybe they're showing them to have a baseline of symptoms that do not vary across the year. And also maybe Google doesn't know what is, they want to leave it open to this data, what kind of COVID symptoms emerge. Maybe it's acne, something, and we just don't know. And this point is here really interesting, that you say it would be nice to have another graph down here, right, with COVID rates or COVID numbers. Is this what you meant, Elena?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like here, yeah, going up, this would be more helpful. Otherwise, we as users have to match our own knowledge of the COVID timeline with this data. And this is, again, mental load. I also saw graphs about Übersterblichkeit. I'm not know what's this in English about the death rates. They were all in calendar weeks. Yeah, but I don't know. I know COVID started in March, but I don't know the calendar weeks. So it was really difficult to match this with my knowledge. At least here we have dates, so it's a little bit easier. But this is always the thing you can improve in charts, to match the knowledge with the data. Okay, all in all, I think this this chart is really a great chart. Because with the interactivity that you see when you click on the link and on the website, you see if you go here around this chart, the map changes and you intuitively understand what kind of bars are this. Yeah, so each bar is all the states condensed with a color code. So I'd say it's a really complex chart. And also if you see this here as a start and you don't see the map, you wouldn't understand anything probably, but they build it from the detailed data. This is the first, the most detailed stage. And this is the second stage that is derived and aggregated. And then you have the third step here, and it's it's small multiples, and it's even more complex, but you understand it when you go through this order. So this is a great design thing that you can do with design, to explain your chart without writing lots of annotations or making even a course or something. Just start with the very basic raw data, and then go to the more and more aggregated views, because people will build their knowledge of the data step by step. And it also helps if you put some interactivity into, because then you have these highlights and they explain another lots of things. Yeah. Okay, so is there any group that, or any single person that worked on the Guardian visualization and wants to tell us something? So please go ahead.
I can see there's a comment from Natia on the chat, where she's saying that Guardian 1 was
On the
absolutely
chat.
clear, but the second one, not so much. That was a work of art for real, but really confusing as a base or of data.
Okay, so don't know if it was on purpose, but this map doesn't give the representation of the situation around the country. In some parts we see the increase, but we can't compare the situation in different parts of the country. Yeah. It was work of art for real, but really confusing. Yeah, I also found this confusing here, and it took me some time. So the first thing I was seeing when thinking fast, it was, California seems to have a problem because this is red, right? So this is the 3 seconds thing. And then it was really a little bit mental load to read the y-axis, because this is a rate, yeah, and how many people are there for one electoral vote. And this is kind of, a little bit more abstract than just showing what they show down here, population, total electoral votes. So this is much easier to grasp in a few seconds, but still it's graspable. And then what's really confusing is that they show the countries with their size, with their area size in comparison, and not with their population size. So I thought it was about population size, though I also thought this was confusing and maybe a little bit difficult to read. And also, what's the message? So it's maybe unfair to say what's the message, because that's a chart within a journalistic article in the newspaper, and probably they put the message in the text and not in the chart. But yeah, the message is that largest population states are underrepresented in the electoral college. Not sure if this is true, but that's the message I get from this chart. Okay, anyone else want to add something or discuss what I just said with me?
Yeah, I was also in the group that worked on this chart, and I found really fascinating how different you now explained the chart compared to my notes.
Okay,
So I found it
nice to see you.
yeah, I think it's a really nice framework to systematize the thoughts and to also note down how you perceive the chart, because I also started from the same kind of starting point that, hey, something is wrong or something needs my attention about California. But then, okay, my main critique was that it's under-labeled, but I went through the points as you structure them, and for me it was pretty clear what the chart wants me to say, that it's some kind of comparison between one state and a group of states across 3 different dimensions. So I also find it really interesting to note that you explained how you see it to compare.
Yeah, so it's if you don't have any users to ask, it's already helpful if you do it with yourself. You play the user in the user test, but it gets way more interesting if you ask other people how they see it and let them play or go through the decoding strategy canvas. Yeah, I think this is the only thing to really find out if the chart is readable, and see a lot of things that might be can be improved. Okay, so let's move to the third one. I have to admit, this is I love this. It's about coffee, and did a group work on this one? Do you want to share some insights? We are curious to hear.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know exactly if my group's target was to work on this, but I worked on it and I was alone, sadly. So I think that I don't like this chart that much, like this whole visualization.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I first saw this, I don't when I checked, it was consistent, but at a first glance, I don't think that this is consistent scaling, like lowest and highest points and whole scaling between lowest and highest points. Also, I didn't get how much samples was tested, like total volumes for Ethiopia, Kenya, or Colombia. It was just very I pretty much didn't have any indication about that. I couldn't compare Colombia. I can see that it's quite high, but I just cannot make distinction between sample size between Costa Rica and Hawaii. And I think that sample size makes big. It's quite important in this kind of tests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you find out that the scaling is not consistent? So
Yeah.
we have here 60 points and
No.
you have 90?
No, that's what I said. That at first I thought that it was like not consistent, but when I checked, it was. So that was
Okay.
kind of confusing. I
Okay.
don't know why I had that feeling, but I had that feeling, so I wanted to say it. And yeah, I don't have that much. Like design for like each individual graph, it's quite good. Like it represents box charts, that I feel like famous box charts, because you can see all the percentiles and how much data fits into like different groups, like 25-50% groups. But like comparing between these charts is kind of hard for me, and I don't think that this is like good visualization for this data.
Yeah, it's very detailed and you cannot grasp a quick message. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you look long enough, then maybe you figure out that Ethiopia has probably very good coffee, right? But yeah, this is very valid what you said, this critical thinking. So how was the data derived? And there's the Coffee Qualities Institutes,
Yeah, like
yeah, samples, and you don't know if they test all the coffee beans out there that exist, or just a certain kind, and what coffee beans those that are already high quality, and they leave out all this um, normal coffee. Maybe the normal coffee is down here, yeah, and
yeah.
we just don't see it. Also, I'm not sure if they have this point system between, I'd say 0 and 90, or maybe 0 and 100. I'm not sure how far it goes. And why do they give always around this 80 points? Yeah, so they narrow themselves very down. And this is also not very clear to me there. So you get curious about the data, the story, the coffee beans that are not shown, yeah, and also what you say, Bika, is really valid. So I'm not sure why Ethiopia has such a small sample size, and Colombia so much. Is Colombia so big with coffee producing, or do they have so many different coffee beans and Ethiopia not? Also, there's nothing about time, so would be interesting to see what in what time span the data is from. Yeah. So there's some critique that could have been made a little bit better, but all in all, I went completely in it. Very short. Very quick. The first impression that I had is, oh, it must be about coffee, and these are countries over here, and Colombia, Costa Rica, Ethiopia. This sounds like coffee producers, so it must be about the quality of coffee. So that I could read the chart really quick. The one thing that I had to read a little bit longer and not in the first 6 seconds is that this looks a little bit about like a bar chart with little,
Yeah, it's complicated bar chart. Also,
yeah,
like one of my first impressions was kind of bad, because like title gives that bad impression, not my cup of coffee, because when I see these kind of charts, I always have seen them in regards to like worker abuse, like as we know, like there's quite abuse like in farms, in banana farms or in coffee bean farms, and I thought that this kind of chart was related to that, so
yeah.
that was also kind of bad impression for me. I
Mhm.
don't know what the intent of the author was, but yeah, I also had that.
Also,
that
can I to add, because a few weeks ago I read about candle charts, and I guess that this visualization is interpretation of that candle chart. And that's why maybe for people who don't know what is it, it's really hard to read, because you should know what is the median and other things. Sorry, I couldn't explain it in English. But maybe if you're interested in, you should read about this. And when I understood that it's some kind of this candle chart, it was more easier for me to read and to understand the data that is represented here.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like a bar chart, and this is what I assumed at a first glance, that this is maybe a timeline and with coffee beans on top or something else. But it's actually not a bar chart, it's a histogram. Yeah, and histograms are chart types that are not understood by everyone. I made a data literacy test, and we found out that a histogram is only by a fraction of people, known to a fraction of people. So be really sure if you use a histogram. So I love histograms because it's always interesting to see a distribution and not only one median or mean value or aggregate value, but you always need to make sure that your audience understands histograms, or if not, explain it to them. Yeah, this is also a difficult point here. So I'd like to know how many people got this, like you, Natalia, and understood that it's not just bars, right? Yeah. Anyone wants to add something to the not my cup of coffee chart? Okay, thank you. Then does anyone have some other remarks of those charts or the decoding strategy canvas, or some issues or questions?
Maybe a quick one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I have some literacy in terms of like reading, understanding data, although I still had hard time, right? Like making quick sense. And I understand these maps and charts were kind of taken out of context. So if you would read the article, maybe it would make much more sense. But how do you, when you are trying to communicate a message, present data, and tell a story to a population that might not be as literate in interpreting and understanding, especially, things like histograms, how do you present in a way that makes it simple without, going into depth of like explaining how to read the chart, which would end up in a lot of text? So is there some kind of like a rule or strategy to present data that is easily understood by people who might not have the background?
Yeah, there are some strategy. The easiest strategy is not show them the data. Use only chart types that they know, though. But this is then you are reduced to very basic chart types like a timeline, a bar chart, a pie chart, a map. I think that's it basically. And what do you do if you really need to show not averages, but you really need to show them the histogram? So this depends very much on the budget you have or the time and your coding skills. What I like at this histogram is that it's built from single dots. So this is also, oh, this is really huge now. I don't know. Yeah. So you see here, these are single dots, and each dot represents one object, so one test of one coffee bean. And this is already helpful. So if you would annotate the histogram with one test, or test A, test B, then it's much easier for people to understand the histogram. Also, I like these animated histograms where those little dots fall into place. You have above you can draw a sorting machine, and you put all the coffee beans in the sorting machine, and then they go through the sorting machine and they fall in these places here on the histogram. So this might explain histograms. So yeah, but this is not always possible. So yeah, these are the 3 strategies I know with histograms, and also more in general, it's a good strategy to start with the easiest graspable data you have and move slowly chart by chart to more complex and aggregated things. Also, text, copy, explanations always help. If you have small, a good headline, a good subtitle, some tiny annotations, they help a lot. This is, but this is always not so easy if you have dynamic data like in a dashboard, because you don't know the data yourself. It's new every day and you cannot annotate it like, look here, this is an outlier, something like this, or tell a story with all those your own knowledge, because you don't know what you show. So this gets a little bit complicated, but somehow you can find maybe a good headline, a good subheadline, and some automated annotations. And yeah, this is yeah, move from simple to more complex. This is one thing. And also that the last thing that I can give you as a tip is something that I can tell you is use very simple metrics or KPIs. So here, maybe this one is, no, it's not loading. Yeah, here. This one is what I said. This here, this y-axis is the number of people per electoral vote. So this is a rate, and this is already one step more complicated than just showing population and electoral votes. So often you don't need a scatter plot combining 2 KPIs in one visualization. Just it's more easy to show them one by one with bar charts, or you just show simple KPIs that people can relate to, and not more complex KPIs that are maybe more precise and loved by statisticians. But always keep in mind that for normal people, they didn't have the time to really understand it. It's too complicated to grasp within 3 seconds. Especially if you are presenting your charts in a talk, in a presentation. Almost all charts that I see in any presentation ever, they were shown in too short time. You didn't have time to decode it, and the presenter didn't explain the chart. So whenever you show a chart in your presentation, take your time and say, okay, this chart is about what you see here, objects. You see the y-axis is about this, the x-axis is about this, and this point means that this is very, don't know, high, low, problem, whatever. So take the time, explain the chart. This would be about 1 minute of your time, and then go ahead and tell them what you want to tell us. Don't assume that during your talking, people are able to read your complex chart. And even if you don't think it's complex because you looked at it so many times, it's complex for people that have never seen it before. So yeah, these are a few things I can give you. Hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. You're welcome. So we have a little bit more time, and I just wanted to show you some interesting thing for my about my sleep stages. This is my sleep, and I really wanted to compare to someone else's sleep, and so I got the sleep stages of my partner. And he allowed it to show it to you kindly. And here you see that they look completely different. And I think this is where it gets interesting. What comes to my mind if I compare our two sleep stages is that my partner seems to have almost no REM phases. I thought they were really important, but yeah, not sure what's going on there. And then again, we have the question, is this normal? I am especially great with REM sleep, or is his REM sleep especially poor? What's the default? What can he do about this? But also, is WHOOP measuring correctly? And we just don't know where to go from there. So I'd say it's a little bit problematic charts.